I was still committed to the project, and Diego was a fabulous assistance in getting through the grant, because I was introduced to the grant from one of the vendors. And if any of you have done grant work, it is, if you're not familiar with it and doing it, it is so intimidating. It's like taking a calculus class when you had nothing but algebra 1, because you don't understand what they're asking for. So Diego and the guys at the state were, after I had struggled with it for a while and got in contact with Diego, it went much more smoothly. I mean, a lot of the stuff I had sweated over was of no consequence, and he really guided me through the process. And it was a while, because I think what he had told me was there were more people, like 3 times more, that had ever applied during the period a year ago that I put mine in. And it stretched out a ways. And then his point about supply chain issues, we got 2 extensions from the state, because we had some equipment that, they said, well, it's on a truck somewhere and we don't know where it is. But that's digressing from the application process. But I would ardently suggest you rely on Diego's office and the state office. They're there to help you. They want to get the best locations and equipment out there for the public. And in my case, we were grateful. They supported us with a grant on 2 level 2 units, and out of my own dime, I did put in a DC fast charger that I'm looking forward. Hopefully next week, I'm going to see a lot of activity as the holiday begins to bring a lot more traffic through our area. And Diego, do you want me to mention about the 3G thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's set up the good, the bad, the ugly, so also we can learn from it. And that's a best practice to look out for 3G, because that was something that we did not look out for, maybe again 2 years ago, a year ago.
Anyway, the units that we bought, I mean, because of my assessment that my typical user is going to the national park and is not going to spend 4 hours in our shopping center charging, I went with the fastest level 2 that was available. And it turns out in February, my customers were having trouble using it. And lo and behold, they had been installed and manufactured with 3G chips. And in February, when Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile all quit servicing 3G, our units were down. I mean, I had no correspondence or notification to expect that. Once we realized what was going on, we were able to roll them over to our Wi-Fi, which we have adjacent to the site, and they're back up and going. But we have ongoing discussions with them about doing something to go back to the cellular, because Wi-Fi, even with ours, can be a little iffy. So anyway, that was totally out of the blue. I never would have imagined that I bought new units that the manufacturer had no clue or let me know that that was a jeopardy waiting for us. So anyway, no, the process was good. And as I say, between supply issues and the processing of the grant applications, everything stretched out. We were hoping to have been open last June, and I think it was October before we actually had things up and running.
Okay. So, you mentioned a lot of good stuff here, so I'll just reiterate again, a lot of good stuff again of we need to look out for some things here. 3G definitely is going to be an issue now, definitely more so now and into the future, that we're going to be looking into making sure that these companies are future proofing, and at least have an easier way to future proof. Supply chain issues, definitely mentioning that you got some extensions there, that is definitely an issue. And so again, as long as we're just communicative, that shouldn't be an issue at all. We definitely have seen that almost everything is taking more and more time. And yeah, the time on the app, you mentioned, again, hopefully we made that process a lot quicker for you. And then lastly, again, you mentioned the very beginning that you were speaking with the city, and with that, discussion, instead of having to go through with a level 3, you went through with the level 2 as they were installing that. Again, just kind of doubling down. That's why it's very important to speak with the city kind of firsthand to see what other stations maybe are popping up next to you. But we'll throw it maybe to the audience here. Yeah, Chris, Johnny, Mika, any questions so far?
Yeah, I've got one for you. This is Mike over here in Walden, Colorado, and I've got the North Park Inn and Suites. Jim, thanks for, I guess, talking about yours. You're actually one of my closer neighbors with any EV charging, so I'm pretty far out in the middle of nowhere. Diego, I guess my main question that I need to have answered is, if it looks like it's a better idea for me to go for the Plaza, Charge Ahead Plaza grant, should I even apply for this round of funding? Because I think it looks like the Plaza grant doesn't open until November. So what I was trying to figure out is, should I apply for this grant? And then if I get it, roll it over into that one and just say, hey, look, I'd rather do that. But that would give me a head start on the project. What are your thoughts on that strategy?
Good question here. So there's a couple of caveats to the EV Plaza. So there is another grant, or there is more funding. However, the caveat is that you have to have at least 150 kW on site or above. And so some sites will not be able to make that transition, or it would just be not cost effective. There are some other options if perhaps your utility is not able to make that upgrade. There are some other charging stations that we've seen, like FreeWire, which has a battery, a solar, and a charging station that can supply the 150 kW, but it is a little bit more expensive than just getting a standard level 3. So with that caveat, if you could get 150 kW, it is much better to then go with the EV Plaza and just get 2 level 2 charging stations. Is it good for your time to go through the Charge Ahead? One kind of caveat is that you can always deny the applications, the grants, once awarded. So all you lose is maybe an hour or 2 hours of your time filling out the Charge Ahead grant. But then also you have a little bit of insurance, based on different things with the EV Plaza. If you aren't able to apply for that, or if you get denied, you still maybe possibly have that Charge Ahead grant within that time. But that's kind of pushing the limit with timing here. So again, with the caveat of 150 kW and you're needing 2 stations, go with the EV Plaza. That's probably best for your time. If you're a little bit in between, go for both. If you're questioning if you can get to that level, just stick with the Charge Ahead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And in my specific case, I was able to, for sure, get enough power. Ironically, the only way I can get any power is if they reroute the entire city's power lines underneath where the power charging is going to take place. And so the entire city's power is going to be located directly under my charging stations. And they said they can give me any level of service I want. But the problem with this is it's $140,000 to reroute the power. And so that's obviously a pretty decent expense. So it's either that or I don't have power for them. So I think it probably is going to go with the Plaza grant. But given that I'm up at a high altitude and temperatures getting cold, I was hoping to get a head start on the construction before November, when I'm basically dead in the water for 3 months before I can even start anything, just from a construction standpoint.
Good idea. That's exactly what I typically like to think of putting into the application. And that's another good idea. Again, would this kind of lengthen that 6-month process? You can get an extension, but it's best to do things kind of on time within this best time. So yeah, it does sound like the Plaza grant is probably best for you if you can get that power. That is an exceptional kind of opportunity there that most cannot get. Any other questions?
Yeah, hey Diego, just have one question for you here in regards to items that we can use the grant towards. So in the same boat as Micah, we're looking at Excel to kind of install that additional power supply. So the one cost that they said that we might incur would be the line extension, and that they give us a certain allowance for it to install it, but depending on how tough of a job it is, we might need to cover some piece of that. Is the grant able to cover that additional piece if we need to spend more to get the line installed?
Good question. More and more Excel Energy and the Energy Office are trying to work together to leverage that. So a short answer, absolutely.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Your line extension, any utility costs are included, but yeah, I will probably hope that into the future that it'll be much easier for you, so that maybe Excel Energy doesn't have to do this kind of line extension. They can just pay for the whole thing. But
right.
For right now, just make sure that you have all of those invoices. What I would do though first, and again, this is kind of maybe best practice, and hopefully going into the future, Excel works more with the Energy Office on this, but I would actually first get everything down as much as possible with Excel Energy's rebates first, and then sending that cost to the Energy Office. And the reason is you're going to hit kind of a wall because it's up, the Energy Office's grant is up to 9,000. So it makes more sense if your 80% up to 9,000 is off of a smaller bill. So typically that's why I also recommend, again, contact Excel first, get those rebates done first, get the line, as much line extension, and then going for the Energy Office grant.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much.
Any other questions? Good question.
Hey, not to beat the dead horse on this one too much, but I know that the Plaza grant is issued by the same office and it's under the same purview as Charge Ahead. Is there any way that you know of that I could just apply ahead right now for the Plaza grant and see if I can get it done on this round of funding?
So for if you are interested in the Plaza grant, the best that I can possibly do is send you the written Word application. It's just like Charge Ahead, where the official application has to be submitted online, but perhaps you can get as much work done so you're just copying and pasting at that time. But let me, I'll ask again a little bit more about specifically when the EV Plaza grant is going to be coming out, what we can do to kind of prepare better. But that's what I can do, at least for right now, is send you at least the Word application to get started on.
Thank you.
Good questions. Any other questions? Well, excellent. Well, again, we're going to be sending out after we get off the call here, all of the notes that I reviewed, grant application examples, grant application guide, the recording. I will also send out again that EV Plaza grant information and application guide, and then I'll check more information on Excel Energy. If we can get a little bit more information, about rates, about their EV rates, that's going to be really helpful for everybody, I think. But for those that are outside that space, maybe your co-op, maybe your utility also has some different programs. So still check back with us and check back with your utility. But that should be it. We'll send out a bunch of notes. Thank you all so much for coming, and Jim, especially for your insights. And yeah, we're hoping, with all the best luck for your charging station and your project.
Great. Anybody that has any other questions, feel free to email me or give me a call, whatever.
Awesome. Well, take care, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.